Joining us now is Democratic Congressman from Colorado, Jason Crow, a veteran who serves on the Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. Congressman, thanks for being here. Shortly after President Trump launched these strikes in Iran, you told me you were concerned that the U.S. was getting into, quote, another Middle East quagmire. Senators are getting briefed right now on what happened in those strikes. Have you gotten answers to your questions related to the goals of that strike and what went down?
I haven't. I sit on the House Intelligence Committee, the Armed Services Committee, for a very long time. For years, I've been paying close attention to what Iran is and is not doing. So what I'm concerned about is the United States, as you point out, being pulled into another Middle Eastern conflict. What I know is that Americans have no appetite for another long, protracted conflict in the Middle East. We spent 20 years, $3 trillion, thousands of American lives, tens of thousands of other lives fighting in the Middle East. Why do we keep on being pulled into it? Now, to be clear, Iran is a rogue regime. They're dangerous and they should not be allowed to have nuclear weapons. But we cannot bomb our way to that solution. You just can't. That's what 20 years of war showed us very clearly. There has to be a permanent and verifiable solution to this. And you can't bomb your way to permanence and you can't bomb your way to verification. So this administration lacks a strategy.
Let's stick in the region. And there's the new developments out of Gaza and these awful reports of starvation, even famine potentially that's underway there right now. We know senators just this morning, Democrats in particular, sent a letter to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, urging the Trump administration to do more to help this humanitarian crisis. What do you think the U.S. needs to do?
It is just unbearable. The images of these starving children starving to death and dying in their parents' arms. I mean, I'm a parent, and these images just make you ill looking at this, right? This cannot be allowed to happen. Very clearly, the aid distribution process has failed. It has failed because they've constricted the number of distribution sites. It's being done by armed personnel, military and private contractors. And, you know, I was an Army Ranger. I was a paratrooper 3 times at war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And what I know is what the military can do effectively and can't do effectively. And almost never can a military with armed personnel effectively and safely deliver aid, which is why we have independent humanitarian organizations that know how to do this, right? Remove the guns from the situation, make sure that it's done in a proper way. And we know that they can do that. They can do it without it falling into the hands of Hamas. They can do it properly. We need to turn this back over to those independent organizations and to the UN and surge food into this region to prevent famine.
I mean, that's what we just heard in our last segment from the people who are part of those organizations trying to get the food in. But when I ask you, what can the U.S. do specifically? Is there something that this administration is not doing that would help?
Yeah, caring. How about that? They just don't give a damn, right? They have not focused on it. They have not put pressure on all the actors in the region. They have not put pressure on Israel to change the manner in which aid is being distributed. They simply are not engaging in this process. So caring and engaging is the first step. So Donald Trump needs to stand up and say that this is not okay, that children starving to death is not okay, and we're not going to allow it to happen. And we're going to change the way that this is being done.
I want to switch to Jeffrey Epstein. The president continues to get questions on this. Right now, the House is out of session, but there is an effort to force a vote in the House to compel the DOJ to release the files. We know in the Senate, there's an effort to get the transcripts from the Ghislaine Maxwell interviews that took place. Obviously, Democrats are in the minority. What more can Democrats do to get answers?
Well, House Republicans literally recessed Congress and sent us home days early. Sent us out of Washington while we still had things to vote on, while we still had work to do, while we still had committees that could do work on economics, on the price of living, on national security, on immigration. There were many, many things that we were supposed to take up. Instead, they shut Congress down to prevent a vote, a bipartisan vote, that would have passed, forcing the release of these files.
They might have delayed it. It may still come back.
It might still come back. But clearly, there's a cover-up here. Very clearly, Donald Trump doesn't want these files released. Right, he's very worried about it.
But why?
Well, because I think he's listed in the files. Right, there's a Wall Street Journal report.
He may be, but that doesn't necessarily imply.
Well, which is why transparency is important. Right, let just release the files and let everybody see. If there's nothing to be concerned about, we can all move on. But he's fighting it. He's fighting it hard. And the reports are that in May he was briefed by Attorney General Bondi about the files, and he was told in May that he's listed in the files. So is it a coincidence that between May and today, that all of this attention has been turned to preventing these files from being released? Is it a coincidence that Tulsi Gabbard, who desperately wants to regain favor with the president because she's fallen out of favor, has been turned into a weapon of mass distraction to create some conspiracy around Russian meddling and Russian collusion, which, by the way, is completely absurd because the IC's findings on that issue have been the most investigated and reinvestigated thing in the history of the U.S. intelligence community in a bipartisan manner by including Marco Rubio.
Well, thank you very much, Congressman Jason Crow, for being here to discuss all of that. Never enough time to get through everything I want to discuss with you. Look forward to having you back. Thank you.
Thank you.